Yes, people. Welcome to another day, another week. It's a new week. Yeah, this is the first of the week. We're now down to once a week on Learn from the Pros. Just to allow for a bit more efficiency and as you know, hopefully things start to return to a little semblance of normalcy. We want to be able to make sure that we're not overcrowding your schedule with with content. So thank you for joining me again today. I have a very special guest today. Very excited about the conversation today. But before we jump right in, as usual, just a few housekeeping matters. We had our fifth masterclass remote over the internet masterclass yesterday. So if you're still considering or contemplating to get some high level audio training, please head over to patreon.com/slash Jason Reynolds Pro Audio. Don't worry that you have missed 5 live masterclasses. They're all available for on-demand viewing, and a great feature as part of our community that we're building is our Discord chat. So you'll be able to ask questions on the masterclasses in the chat room. That is a part of the subscription. So there's a few subscription levels there that you can look at. So when you have some time, head over to patreon.com/slash Jason Reynolds Pro Audio and check that out. Also, if you haven't done it already, subscribe to this channel, share this channel with other people you know in the industry that may be looking to enhance their skills a little bit. Obviously, this channel continues to be free and will always be that way as we do learn from the pros, as we continue to try and bring you access to some of the best professionals that I have access to. So definitely check that out, and check out jasonreynoldsproaudio.com, where you can opt in with your email to receive email reminders and stay up to date in everything that we're doing. So without further ado, that's a mouthful. I'm still learning to be a good broadcaster. So I have my moderators always call me after the show and say you forgot to mention all these things. So I'm trying. I'm getting better at it. But without further ado, let me introduce you to my guest today. None other than the man himself, Bobby Bascombe. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes. So Bobby, like myself, is from Jamaica. One of the best LDs to come out of Jamaica, definitely in recent times. So very excited to talk to him. Currently, the lighting designer for Sean Paul as well as Jason Derulo, and I'm sure there's some others. Um, and first comment goes to John DeCosta. John, John is pointing out that my set and lighting looks good. So I'm sure he's pointing that out for a very specific reason. John, I was just telling Bobby prior to us coming live that John helped me sort out my lighting and my video because I knew nothing about these things. I was just trying a thing. So thanks to John DeCosta for helping me out with that. So just to remind everybody who is watching, if you have questions as we go along, please feel free to drop them in the live chat on YouTube. I have it open on a screen beside me, so we'll be able to pay attention to that and get as many of your questions answered as possible. So let's jump right in. Bobby,
Yes, sir.
the great Bob Roy. Um, Talk to us a little bit about how you got started in the industry. What were the early days like for you?
Oh, oh man, that's a while back. Yeah, man, almost 40 years now actually.
Wow.
Started started back with my first group out the box was a group called Chalice.
Wow. Yeah, I remember Chalice. Well, I
And
remember my dad telling me about Chalice.
yeah, there you go.
Let's be specific.
There you go. There you go. So yeah, um very interesting, I have to tell you first and foremost though, that my mentor, none other than Neville Garrett, KG. That was Bob
Nice.
Marley's. Well, he was also, he was. I've known him for a while. We went to the same high school.
Right.
Went to prep school, went to the same high school, ended up at the same college and all that kind of stuff. So,
Nice.
I started emulating his footsteps, and he kind of advised me and directed me into what I needed to do and how I needed to approach what I did. Like I said, we're
Right.
both artists. So, basically what we're doing now is painting the stage. The stage
Right.
is our palette, you know.
Right.
And so, and then, after that, he's the one who actually gave me a lot of breaks because he brought me into to the whole Sunsplash scene. I did Sunsplash with him from Sunsplash 2 onwards, all
Right.
the way through to Sunfest, all the Sunfests for the first 12 years as well.
Wow. I had no idea. I knew the connection. Obviously, Nesta being a good friend of mine, and we toured together with Steven.
Mhm.
I knew there was a connection, but I didn't realize that it goes that far back. That it's that deep. And it's funny because we just were talking about how small our industry is and our community is, and here's another example of how incredibly small it is. Everybody is sort of connected, right? I think Neville Garrick is one of the most interesting people. You know, like, is it the Dos Equis ad where the most interesting man alive or something like that? They, they need to hire Neville Garrick for that role. Just the stories that he has, and being around the industry as long as he has been incredible.
Mhm.
So talk to me about those early days again. Like, so with Chalice now, was that touring right away, or did you kind of start doing like a lot of shows locally? How did that kind of come together?
Yeah, we did a lot of shows locally, around the island for a while. What we did was the entire band, including myself, went into the countryside. They rented a house, and we literally stayed there all week. Weekends we came home,
Right,
and just rehearsed. So pretty much I got to know the group. I mean, basically it was family at that point in time. So, when we finally did the first show at the box, it was like reflex action. You know,
right,
not long after that, like I said, not long after that, Neville was like, yo, I need you to come work with me here. I can tell you too, he lived not far from where Chalice used to, their home base, the Kingston base was. So I'd always be
right.
at the house. And I remember, I just said, Nesta, I remember when Nesta was a baby running around the studio.
Likely giving a lot of trouble, right?
Oh, yeah, yes, he did. But so when he finally came on and started doing light, and it impressed the hell out of me. It impressed.
Right.
I was my heart was busting big because as you said, I see the generations come down, and then to be honest with you, last year we did the Marley Fest in Miami,
Yeah, Caiaphas.
Caiaphas,
Yeah.
and my son came down because my son also knows in the business as well.
Right, right,
So yes, so now it was funny watching, both of them, not just Nesta and Brandon, you know, started comparing notes, and me and never stand up watching them because I had Brandon run Sean because every now and then I'll go do something else, or if I have
right,
to do Jason, I'll have Brandon the Sean, or vice versa.
right, right.
It was interesting watching, the next generation.
Right. It's funny because Brandon a few years back had come up to New York and done a show with us with Shaggy. I don't know if you remember that.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So but I was so busy Caiaphas boy. I don't even remember. I know I saw you for like a short while early in the day, and then that was one of those days, man, where it's just a blur. But yeah, that's incredible. I always kind of and I know the cool thing about these conversations is that we don't talk about what we're going to talk about. So for those watching, we don't really have a plan. We just kind of start talking about how the journey began. That's the only question I know I'm going to ask is how did it start? How do you get into the industry? But then we kind of jump around and talk about cool things as they come up. And one of the things for me, like, I didn't really come from, in terms of my parents anyway, because my grandfather was a musician. But my parents weren't really into music, and my parents never encouraged music as a career, to be honest. Like,
Because Jamaican.
for yeah, exactly. You know how it goes. So, like, my parents wanted me to, and I mean, I was quite interested in going into flying at one point. But
Mhm.
talk to me a little bit about that kind of passing on that legacy, Brandon being enlightened, and we can expand a little bit more on watching, like, I'm sure, and Neville has said it to me too, and I've heard him say it publicly, how proud he is of Nesta, but I can imagine that feeling and that pride when you see your son following in your footsteps. What's that like, and what's that like teaching your son? Because I try to teach my son. I mean, my son is 4, but
Well, I had some practice. So by the time he was ready, to get into the business, I already had some practice on one of their good friends, John Acosta.
right. Yeah.
Because I don't know if he told you of his first show. It's the first time literally putting John on a console. It was like
Right.
teaching somebody to ride a bike and then you push them off and leave them.
Right.
I put John on the desk. I put John on
Yeah.
the console and then left and went backstage.
That's hilarious.
And he did great,
Right. Right.
you know, coming forward, so I already had practice in what to do. And Brandon, no, Brandon, basically, he wasn't even interested in doing lighting. He was more of a
Right.
designer, but the first gig I really needed help, and he helped me out. And I guess he got bit by the bug. And
Right.
ever since that, he has, come a long way, to the point where now I can, literally, you know, give him a project from the draft and say, go ahead, deal with it, you know.
Right.
Or
Right.
for last year, myself and Chuckles had to leave our Sean Paul tour from Europe and go to Kenya to the
Right.
gig, and I called Brandon in cover me, and he picked up the tour from there on and ran with it quite easy.
Yeah. That's amazing, and definitely, I mean, any of us who are in touring that work with multiple artists, as we sometimes have to do, especially as freelancers, having somebody that you can trust, to step in is incredibly, incredibly important.
Exactly, and
Um,
that's what John. That's why John Brandon and myself now is a nice little trio. You know
right.
that we bounce stuff off of each other constantly.
That's amazing. So, in the early days, and I'm going to, John, I see your question. So maybe we'll ask that question and then talk about the contrast and where the business has come in the 40 years. I think it's 40 years. You said you've been doing this a
Closing
long
in
time,
40
man.
years now. It's not close to 40, it was closing in, very close to 40.
Right, right.
Now,
So I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes in the business, and one of the changes that we're going through now, in our industry is unprecedented. But I'm sure you've seen changes, not necessarily of the same magnitude, but very huge changes throughout the years. So I'd love to explore that a bit. But John's question is, how do you keep current with the technology? That's part A of the question. And then part B is, do you think the technology takes away from the organic nature, that you're used to back in the days?
well, to answer the first question is keeping current. The onus is on you. You want to succeed, as we were talking about before we came live. It is up to you to stay current. Align yourself with companies, align yourself with technology, and get as deep as you can into it and try to become the best at it.
Right,
When you become the best at it, then these companies will come around and start asking you to beta test their stuff. And always struggle to be the best. I don't remember the second part. What's the second
The
part?
second one was, do you think the technology takes away from the organic nature that you're used to from back in the days?
No, and I'm going to tell you why. Again, that was taught to me by Neville Garrick. Basically, that's what makes a good lighting director differ from a good button pusher. A good button pusher will
Right,
be pushing the buttons as the technology will allow him. A good lighting director is going to take his art and use the technology and make his art better.
right,
You
right,
always make sure you put your personal feeling. It's just like an artist going to use a pen and do a drawing, and then somebody will come along and use an airbrush and do the same drawing and just make it a little bit nicer because the technology is there to do that, and you put the same feeling in there.
right. And I think that for our viewers, they'll know that I try to focus on in this series, Learn from the Pros specifically. We're not necessarily focusing on gear and stuff, because as I've said in previous programs, that's those are really just tools. At the end of the day, it's the intangibles and the approach that really makes the difference. Because what makes you a good lighting director is not the tools that you use; it's your approach to lighting. You spoke about painting the stage as a canvas, and
Exactly.
I find you can always tell an experienced lighting designer, lighting director, because from my vantage point as an audio guy, my favorite lighting ops are guys that are able to create moods essentially, then, and incite emotions and responses to the music, versus just you find a lot of guys nowadays, especially in the EDM culture, that really good at flash and dash, but that whole idea of painting with fixtures. So
Exactly.
talk to me a little bit more about that, and what that's like. Do you paint?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, I guess that helps.
I'm, I'm a fine arts degree, but basically, as I say, first thing you learn when you go to art school is you learn that different colors elicit different emotions. You know. Now, when you listen to the song and you're interpreting what the song is saying, you know, basically you're trying to push those colors into the mind of the audience for them to understand. I can guarantee, and I have done it before, where I can guarantee to get a ooh or a ah out of certain colors that you push it. Or,
Right,
it's they don't even know that it's happening to them. But
right,
colors elicit emotions all the time, and that's the reason why you see certain colors. On you go to the supermarket, and certain things sell a lot more than some. Just it's the colors.
right,
You know, so
right,
basically, going right back to the question you asked earlier. Now you take the technology and you add the technology to your art.
right.
Yeah.
No, what I find interesting, right? Because we hear all the time and we fight this sort of struggle where and I can speak specifically about reggae because that is the genre that I work mostly in. So for those non-reggae people watching, don't kill me. But we hear all the time that artists don't necessarily understand the value of. I mean, we fight it on the audio side. Sometimes they only want to bring one engineer, or they want to go and use a host engineer, or they don't necessarily understand the value of bringing an LD. But
Mhm.
you say as early as back when Chalice was around, you were in rehearsals. You were, you know what I mean. So was that a common thing back then in those early days?
Not really, but Chalice, I think, because at that point, back in those days, the only people that had LD was Bob and Third World.
Okay,
Chalice literally came in right on the heels of Third World and became successful. Then that's the reason why they became successful when they came straight up. They stirred up their heads immediately because of that, because they took it to the next level. I must say, Peter Tosh also, but he basically operated a lot outside of the country more than anything else. When Peter Tosh came to Jamaica to perform,
right,
Jamaica turn out because it was a rarity. It was
right,
a great thing to see. Yeah.
right,
The reggae groups in Europe were already using LDs. Steel Pulse had a full production of,
right, right,
props and gear. That change costumes and all that kind of crap during
right,
the show.
right,
So Chalice only just did the homework, so it
right.
made the production look a lot better.
Right. So that standing out then, if you will, because that's another thing that I guess we are is a blessing and a curse in the reggae industry, because Jamaica is such a small population, small island, and then you have a industry that is fairly saturated because like my mother always say, every Jamaican can sing. Like she never meet a Jamaican. It's rare when you meet a Jamaican with tone deaf. It's like an amazing thing. It's like, yo, come check this out. I read you can sing, right? So like music is such an important part of our culture and such a predominant part of our culture that I guess for the cream to rise, you have to come with something that stands out from the rest. And
Exactly.
for those who have watched, big up Truckback and Taddy P on the program Music Journey and kind of showing throughout the years the live band. I mean, nowadays it's and everything come full circle. Everything have its life cycle, and it what goes around comes around. So you see, the DJ thing kind of pick up, but then you see in the live band thing coming back, and that. But back then it was all live band stuff predominantly, right? Like, I mean, there was a lot of live band shows happening, right?
A lot of live band shows, yes. There was a lot of live band shows, but it was mostly very sterile, And then basically, most of these groups would get their practice on the hotel circuit and then
Right,
come and do a show. And it was always good, because you're enjoying good music, but
right,
if you find a group that can take it to the next level, like a third world or a chalice, the people would go nuts because now you remember anybody can go out and buy a record, they can buy with a CD or a LP or whatever it is, and boom, them done. That's it. You look at them,
right,
you're not getting much more, and so you found that the onus was on the artist now to step up his game to make the production much better, be stagecraft and lighting and even you guys know that because when you guys start to push it live, you always a little frill here, a little frill there that they never hear that.
right,
People go nuts.
right,
Walk away and say, why either hear all them song on them? Them go nuts.
right,
That's
right.
always it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Always trying to, you have to, you're right. It's like it's one thing to play the record, but to add a little bit to it because you at the end of the day you want people to come out and watch shows. I mean, look at the time we're in now. Everybody's listening to music at home, but not doing any of us any good. So, yeah, definitely that's huge. So take me through now to so there was Chalice first, and obviously you talked about like the early years of Sunsplash and doing those shows.
Yes.
Um, obviously, but I mean, Neville has told me stories of like running lighting with like switches,
Yeah.
like not even like a console with faders and all these fancy things that we have now, touch screen at this day. He tell me about like having different switches and how you would frame and focus to get the desired effect. And obviously now that becomes a very important skill, being able to frame and focus and that kind of stuff. So talk to me a little bit about like those days of what did a typical rig look like in them early days of your career.
Literally, this was our park ends, first and foremost. They didn't have moving lights. Moving lights weren't around yet. Um,
Right,
the early days I mean, like I said, you know, basically Chalice was there, but then when you step up to sort of Sunsplash 2, we had a all switch console. It was three banks of
right,
switches. And it was good. It did the job. The park hands was there. You focused them, and you did your first song. It was great. Sunsplash 3 now stepped up on a level because then never brought in this British company, Britannia Roll,
right,
and it wasn't moving lights yet, but technology was there. Big dimmers and big console, and here we go now. Now you have to learn, step up your game again now because
right,
now technology is moving ahead. And you tend to get because we're from Jamaica, we have to take our hand and make fashion. So we used to excel at our game. So
right,
eventually now, Sunsplash went away, and I remember the first Sumfest is when we really started getting moving lights in Jamaica. You know,
right,
the whole high end gear, and I brought on a rig. That first Sumfest, I brought on a rig from Tampa. It was
right,
all moving heads. Not moving heads, but moving mirrors. You know,
right,
it was a different technology.
right,
So, and that's every we learn, we go because by then But then Chalice used to tour a lot at that point in time, so I'd start picking up experience overseas as well. So
Right.
I try to bring always try to bring the technology home because
Right.
it's always been been part of me for long. So and again, I learned it from Neville is to teach.
Right.
You know, you bring the technology home and you teach, and that's it. So I always brought technology home. Um,
Right.
eventually, Chalice went away. I started touring with Third World, as a matter of fact.
Oh wow. Yeah.
I did, I did quite a few years with them as well. So,
Okay.
and that was great. Some of the best years of my life.
Right. Right.
And at that time, no, I was living in the US. So basically, no, I'm going to I have to establish my reputation here. You know,
Right.
and I got, so I took Sunsplash. The first opportunity I had really to establish my reputation in the US is with the Sunsplash itself, Tony Johnson full production. They took Sunsplash to Africa,
Oh wow.
and they took a full Jamaican crew and a full US crew with full US gear.
Right.
So, and it brought in some of the best people, production managers, stage manager Ron Bird, who was, one of the top production managers in the business at that point in time. We did a lot of Budweiser Superfest together and all that, you know.
Right. Right.
And they, basically, he was responsible to, getting me into the R&B
Right.
part of the business, because he wouldn't leave me. Everywhere I went, every gig he had, he brought me into it. I mean, all the way
Wow.
to this, right through to Kendrick Lamar.
Right. Amazing.
It's all the years, he never, he stuck with me though. We did
Right. Right.
Quest together with that, Bobby Brown together with quite a few, you know.
Right. Right. And
And
how important, I mean, for the younger guys watching who haven't necessarily learned this skill of building and maintaining relationships. I mean, relationships really is everything. You know what I mean? I not to negate, obviously, you touched on having the skill and making sure that you're at the top of your game so you can set yourself apart. But you meet some guys who do have the skill, but they just don't have the personality side, and they're no fun to work with, no fun to be around. So talk a little bit about how valuable that has been for you. And I mean, it's one of those things that for most Jamaican people like to be around us because we're just cool people to we chill, we love to laugh and have a good time. And but for those people who may need to work on that, how much value, if it's tangible, it might not be tangible. Some people can put them finger on it and say, this relationship has bought me X amount of thousands of dollars, right? But in terms of just the overall value to your life and career, how valuable has these relationships like the one you just mentioned been to you over the course of your career?
well, first and foremost, what you need to be, don't try to be like them.
Right.
Be a Jamaican. Be a Jamaican. Take your Jamaicanness to them.
Right.
They tend to appreciate you a lot more. Now, remember, as we spoke about, you already have your skill set, 'cause that's what, that's the first thing that attracted you to any of these production.
Right.
You have your skill set, but then no, you have to become the personality. You have to go with it. So you be a Jamaican and be the best you can be. You be the
Right.
best you can. If you are interested in building a career, then you not have to be able to beat out 1,000 people that stand up there waiting for your gig.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and that's talk a little bit about to investing in yourself because we talked about that. You talked about having like your own console, and at first maybe you didn't have your own console, but you made relationships with people who you could get access because that's one of the things we talked about prior to coming live. Is for me, whenever I have a show on a console that I don't normally work on. Now, yes, we do have riders and stuff, and I tend to get the same console all the time. But every now and then, you go to somewhere like St. Martin or something for the Heineken Regatta, and they just all they have on the island is two CL5s. Like that's is either that or a Behringer X32 where you put it
I
in the
did that
suitcase.
festival for so many years. I
Yeah,
did that festival because those guys down there. basically brought me down there. They bought their first whole hog, and they brought
Right.
me to teach them that console.
Right, right. So
Did that.
exactly. Even our lighting guy when we were going, he was like, "All they have is a hog." I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
you either going to use that hog or you're going to put something in your suitcase." But right. So I have the like a gig like that prior, and I just remember that one. Funny that I remember that one off the top of my head. But I would go into a shop, call up a shop here in Toronto that would have, and sometimes you have to drive an hour or two, but it's that willingness to make sure that when you get there, because the artists don't care whether or not you know the console. You have a job to do and you have to deliver a certain level of consistency. So with all that said, the willingness to invest in yourself and to learn, how can younger guys coming up, well, like what resources are out there, what should they be focused on in terms of wanting to stay learning and cutting edge?
Well, there are tons of resources, you know. So of course, it all depends on where you live, you know, no matter what it is. But if you're interested in furthering your career, you know, attach yourself to a shop. That's the first thing. You know, they may not want you to come in immediately and be on a console. You know, as a youngster, you're coming in, you may not want to be on a console at first. My son in the business, and you know, he started as a demo tech.
Right.
And to be honest with you, that keeps you honest, you know, because no, because I grew up, you know, Jamaican, where we started, like I said, with switches, and we've done consoles all the way. In John Swaber bought his first real console. You know, I was on it, and we learned it together. And no, you know, anywhere we go, there will come a time when you just are somewhere where I'm on this and boy, I'll have a little leprechaun or I have a little give up pearl. You better, you know, be ready to use it. You know,
Right.
those things still keep you honest. But like I said, you know, as life goes on, and I told my son the same thing. You know, I said you going to have to learn backwards because you learn all of these modern desks, but try and teach yourself how to use an older desk because it will happen to you, and it happened to him already. You know,
Right.
we were just yesterday was talking to me and said, "Well, I'm very thankful to learn that because you know, as you said, at the end of the day, the artist really don't care.
Right.
He just wants to see the production done. You know?
Right.
So, you
Right.
know,
There's something I want to touch on, and partly to do with John put a comment here, and I think for me, I've always felt that teaching somebody else to do something
mhm.
um, does more sometimes for you, the person teaching, than it does for the person learning that thing, right? So one of the guys I'd interviewed, and for those who are able to go back and look at the interviews on the program, I interviewed Ricky Cook, who is the head of audio and networking at Hillsong Church,
Mhm.
and one of the questions I asked Ricky was, Hillsong does a phenomenal job of recruiting and training volunteers and onboarding people. They've mastered that. I mean, to run a church that size, you need an army of volunteers, and they've just done a phenomenal job. And one of the things he said to me is their philosophy is, who are you taking with you on the journey, right? So they everybody who is, if you're learning something new, you're going for Dante certification, you're going to learn something new, a new piece of gear. Who are you taking with you as you get better? Who are you bringing along with you? And John put a comment here that the culture of teaching and mentoring, Garrix, Swaby, Carter, and Bobby, obviously, not only have you taught many people, but I believe that one of the reasons for you getting to that, what I refer to as the mythical highest level, right? Because it's really mythical, because we might look on, our younger guys look on and say, "Yo, that is the highest level." But then when we talk to you, there's more that you feel you can do. There's further you can go, and so no matter when you get to the highest level, there's always a next step. Yeah, there's always that one gig that you'd say, yeah, that's the one. That's the one I'm working towards, and it keeps us fighting and keeps us getting better. But that culture of teaching, I know you said kind of Neville. Neville kind of brought that on. But how has that taken on a life of its own for you throughout the years? And do you sort of get this hair raising experience when you look on and see some of the guys that you've taught, like John and some of the other guys when they do crazy things? That what's that feeling like for you?
Trust me, it is a very good feeling because not only being on the road when when let me do a little rewind. When my daughter was born, I saw her for her first week, and then I didn't see her until she was walking again. And that's how touring in back in the
Right,
touring was long.
right,
So I kind of made a conscious effort that to have an next kid out to more stay at home than anything else, which I did when Brandon was born. And so kind of I didn't stop touring, but I backed off and I went to Universal Studios to work. Universal was in its growing days, and they literally built a lighting department around me. I built their lighting department pretty much.
wow,
From there I mentored quite a few. I have one person out right now with Earth, Wind and Fire, one person in charge of the whole hard rock enterprises across the world.
wow,
I look on them and I feel really good.
yeah, yeah,
John will tell you there was another good friend, a very good programmer that John came back to me and said, "Man, this guy said you're the person who put him in this business, and this guy is one of the biggest programmers in the world right now." So
wow, that's amazing.
I see people like him, and I said, "JD Acosta out there, I feel really, really good. I feel really
Right,
good." I was a Nesta because he never look at me and said, "What should I bring? Help my son."
right.
you know. So it really makes me feel good.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Talk about the sense of pride. This is something that I asked Shaggy. One when I did, he was on my program when it was on Instagram Live,
Mhm.
and there's a few of us. I consider myself a small part of that vibe of representing our country. And you touched on it earlier about being Jamaican and not trying to be somebody else, but being authentically you because people appreciate that. And I think that's something I have tried to. It's easy to what they call assimilate when you move, for those of us who don't live in Jamaica still and still have to work in the industry. But I try my best to sort of wear this banner proudly of Jamaica, and I speak very highly of our texts that come out of Jamaica whenever I'm given the opportunity to be in circles and be able to do that. So talk a little bit about that for you, because I know for those of us who get out here and get to do this, we don't. I mean, the money is important, obviously, guys. Don't get me wrong. You need to get paid what you're worth,
Never
but
lose
that's
that.
not why we're out there doing it, right? So talk a little bit about that feeling of being able to represent Jamaica and just wear that banner or that cape.
Well, even to this day, it is a lot better now, but even to this day, you still have that mentality by some of the big guys in the business that, oh, they're, look at Jamaican guys, they still, put us in that little box. They know that a couple of us, yourself, quite a few of us that have broken out of the box, and but they still figure, oh, so look, island guys, they don't know anything, and especially with Sean, for the past 3 years, we have done Wembley Stadium, and you're talking about some of the best in the world. We did Wembley Stadium. We did one other festival with Bieber. And we were the only ones, the Jamaicans, Omatalik and myself. When we got in there, the guys dropped everything. When you go into front of house, all that front of house will have all of 9 consoles, and Lighting World is going to be the same thing. But they look at you and say, "Don't worry, man, your desk is over there," and you go there, you see your desk all covered up. And people be looking at you and say, "How the hell did you get that?" You know,
Right.
but basically we work at it, and as again, it ends up being the relationships because, like I said, we did Wembley 3 years. The first year we went to Wembley, Yeah, it was good. And, the guys treated us, they were cordial and everything. But when we walked out, when we were finished, you know, it's a whole thing. We represented ourselves really, really well. Unfortunately, we came back the next year. The next year we came back and they were bending over hand and foot to take care of us because
Right.
we knew what we were doing, you
Right.
know. And we never tried to be like them. We were Jamaicans and we played
Right.
representing Jamaican music, or playing Jamaican music, and we came in there and we did even better than the year before. So it's a matter of building your reputation because, like you said, this business is small, and you're going to see the same big guys around, And when you are with the best, and these guys are, at the top of the field, you want to be better than them,
Right.
you know. And if you can be, and I've seen where, guys that will come in there with a bigger name group than myself, and be asking me questions, and it's the same thing.
Right.
So I'm doing it with Tally as well,
Right.
and that's the way. That to me, being yourself and representing your country at the same time. So now he'll walk away and say, "Boy, them Jamaicans know them know them thing."
Right.
The
Yeah.
one, it will be a lasting impression.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's John types here erasing the stereotype. Yeah, absolutely. Because, a lot of the times you fight against these stereotypes that some, let's be honest, may be self inflicted, while others people just don't know. You just think that because we come from a developing country or whatever, we don't have access. Necessarily sometimes, but you're right. It's like one of the best feelings, I think, for one I can remember recently. We were in Saudi Arabia, maybe a few weeks after you guys. We were there doing Diriyah season,
Mhm.
and I mean, I've known the Pitbull guys for a long time. They were on Caiaphas as well, and stuff too. But the production manager actually came to me after we finished, and we were going down the stairs to go right into the vehicles to leave to catch the flight out the same night. And he ran after me and stopped me, and he said, "Listen, man, production manager to production manager, I want to let you know that just we're impressed with the level of professionalism, how you guys carry themselves. It was a joy, and that to me, that feel better than the paycheck. No, trust me, the paycheck feel good enough. But that
Exactly.
that comment and that saying
Mhm.
to say, you know what, I want to, and then he said, I want to make. I've never been to Jamaica. I want to come there. I want to come to a festival there. I want to experience the culture there. That to me is the greatest feeling ever. That at that point in time, I can rip my shirt off and I feel like Superman. I just fly go home.
We have paved the way for the rest of Jamaica. That's exactly
Yeah,
you know. So Jamaicans will come in after us, and they'll treat them with a lot more respect than they than before. You know,
right.
to me, that, as you said, to me, that's the greatest thing. You
Yeah.
know,
And there's also an awesome responsibility with it as well. Like it's not just, yeah, the feeling is good, but you carry the weight of that responsibility, right? That, like, you always know that somebody looking on and somebody need you to do this, cause you're breaking barriers as well. Like, I mean, we doing it we owe it to you and other technicians, the John Swabes of the world, and Neville Garrick, and these people who have already gone out there and made it easier for us. But the goal is to make it even easier for those coming after us, right? So we
exactly.
encourage everybody watching to, yeah, man, know that this is, I heard a promoter, we were on a call discussing some stuff for Mescal Square that never ended up happening because of Corona, but one of the comments, I'll never forget the statement. He said, "I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing it for legacy."
Mm-hmm.
And I say, "Yeah, that's that is, yeah, that thing stick with me."
Let's go square in Ethiopia, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, never did that. Yeah, never did that. Yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it
So
was,
we the younger generation just kind of
yeah,
come in for the second go around to.
yeah,
It's easier every single time. You know what I
that was
mean? It
the
every
greatest
time.
transfer I've ever done. I'll never forget it. One of the greatest experiences because you're talking about literally over 100,000 black people in one place.
Yeah,
Huh?
unreal.
And you're talking about all first world technology, everything is right there in the middle of Bascombe Square. It was one of the greatest
Right.
experiences ever.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we're anxiously awaiting our turn when it does happen. But even let's we talk about something like a Caiaphas, right? I like to touch on that whenever we have people on the program who have been a part of the Caiaphas
Mhm.
experience, and again, being a Veer just arrived. It's like as I say Caiaphas, Veer just appear in the comments. But uh, speaking of and Caiaphas and Sumfest are put in the same bracket, an international festival with international headline artists, start to finish, being run by our people is especially in this climate of talking about supporting black owned businesses and being everything being Afrocentric and black centric. What was that like for you coming into an environment like that, and speak about just the excellence of the festival and how everything was run?
Well, first thing is, is even before you get there, knowing that when you get there, things will be ready for. So you're talking to people, ahead, like for me, it was Nesta, but he, I knew exactly what he was doing. I knew exactly what he had there, and I knew exactly what to expect when I got there, which was just perfect. It's exactly what I want. I said, well, you're using that, I need it, and so okay, I'll take care of it. I'll have it there for you, and all of what I need, my comfort zone. Because remember, we were coming straight from Europe, straight
Right.
to the airport, and came right in. So whenever I had the time to come down and assimilate the day and all that, I had my son down there. He brought down the media server and all that kind of stuff. But that was about it. But it was easy. It was a plug and play gig for me. Let's put it that way. It was a plug, and I'm very impressed with that. Very impressed.
Amazing. I know, of course, other people who have been on the program have talked about their experience from their vantage point with Sumfest.
Mm-hmm.
And again, for those watching who are not Jamaican or not familiar with Reggae Sumfest, there is no festival like Reggae Sumfest on the face of the planet, because this thing starts at what, like, from the night before, and the headline artist is going on at like 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. So
Tell you what,
it's
it's got a lot worse than that. Yeah, I can tell you about the times when the sun will come out. I mean, literally 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I remember Black Uhuru
oh
come.
boy, jeez, jeez,
And this was after a whole week, because some Sunsplash used to be a whole week.
right.
It was 5 days of it.
Crazy.
You know,
I don't know how y'all stay awake. Like I'm like, man, like, because when you done at 9, you got, you get like a couple hours sleep, and then you're doing a sound check for the next night, right?
I'm telling you, you're babbling at the end of the day. You're babbling. You don't even know what you're talking. I
It's
will tell you,
crazy.
I've been through that. But you know what? It paved the way, and I went away from Sunfest for quite a few years, and in those years, John took over, and John was doing great at the same way too. And then he did also. I don't know if he mentioned that. He did. Jazz festival, the Air Jamaica Jazz and Blues Festival, which was
Right,
it built a reputation to the pinnacle. Literally, you have people that was fighting to get to that.
right, right.
But some fest, and now I don't know if he told you, but himself and me, we have a company now together.
Yes,
You
yeah,
know, and we have gone back to some fest now.
right,
I've done the last three some fest together. As
right,
a company, and it gets better and better. It's
right.
better and better, and I was really looking forward to this one here coming up again, because every year we kept improving the technology, and then we're bringing the latest of technology, and we really had plans for this one coming.
Right, right. What do the artists, a great percentage of the artists appreciate? Um, do you think they appreciate that production value, or it's kind of still just, because I know that technically on the dancehall side, it might not be as they might not be as involved in the production side as some of the reggae artists.
You'd be
Um,
surprised,
you know,
you'd be
yeah,
surprised. Some of them, what happens is they see and they know what they want. Whether
right,
they're going to spend to get what they want is a different story. But a lot of them know exactly what they want. last Sunfish, when before I got down there, I was contacted by Chris Martin, as they
Right.
actually their production, it took his production to another level. They incorporate video into it and trying to make the video live with themselves, and learning.
Right.
It's just a matter of the artist now understanding. Okay, you are exposed to this because a lot of them is traveling now, right? So a lot of them have seen the technology out there and they want it
Right.
and they learn to appreciate it. So when you bring that technology to Jamaica, if you go in there with one act, as when I go there with Sean, I bring some kind of technology with me. And,
Right.
you know, believe me, it's not forgotten. So
Right.
we want it, and then you come into Sunfest and you do it, and you introduce technology to them, and a lot of them, surprisingly enough, a lot of them actually start to ask. But as I said, they need to know that with the latest technology, it's usually pretty come at a pretty penny. So,
Right.
so that is the difference now. Who will pay for it?
Right.
Who won't?
Right. Right.
Yourself,
Yeah.
and people like Chuckbox, are good production managers. So you guys are usually the ones that are spearheading, fighting for the budgets to get
Right. Tell
right.
me about it.
People we want,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that is, Chuckbox and myself, we do a lot together. We're two up on Chuckbox, so like
Right.
kids, literally.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so when I tell them, look, boss, this is what we need, you usually 99.99% of the time will get what I need.
Right.
I will
Right.
get, you know. But,
Right. For sure.
and a lot of the artists, the Shaggies and the Shawns, at first it was they just wanted the basic thing, but when you introduce a piece of technology to them that they liked, like for instance, when you start running videos behind them, no one expected it at first, but when you start,
Right.
you start running the video in time code and all that, with everything in sync with them,
Yeah.
no, so now they're willing to pay for it because they want
Right.
it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's kind of proving the concept, and then it becomes a staple, right?
It's not like here,
Um.
it's a standard procedure, but
Yeah.
you have to make them understand. So seeing is believing. So
Yeah, because I mean, when we just brought Colin in with Shaggy to deal with like time code and video media server, it was a fight. Like it was a fight. And then now, if we walk into a venue, the first thing
wow.
him not even notice say no PA don't fly it. Him say, yeah, where my video screen?
Yeah,
Like so,
that's it.
yeah, you're right. It's like once you prove
Try to
that
run,
concept,
try to run anything all the time code, and you hear more complaints again. You
yeah,
know,
exactly.
they're going to complain.
Right, right,
Well, it's a matter of, the artists here, like I said before, earlier on, they grow into this technology in Jamaica.
right.
They're exposed to that, so we have to take it to them. But once they get it, they like it and they want it, and
Absolutely,
they don't expect.
absolutely. So before we start wrapping up, big up Naya, who is watching and commenting. Big up Searchen. I know Searchen is a big part of the Sumfest team.
Yes, yes,
Um, big
absolutely.
up big up Veer Daniram, who is giving trouble as per usual. John DaCosta, Whitson Williams Jr. is in the buildings. Quite a bit of people watching. So yeah, it's a family affair. You know what I mean? So here's what I wanted to ask you, which I think is I like to ask lighting guys these questions. What's the best show you've ever been to that you weren't running lighting for?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, Let me see. 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 That's a really good question. Oh, I can no, actually, I can take it. George Michael.
Okay.
George Michael at Orange Bowl Stadium.
Uh-huh.
That seeing that concert kind of changed my whole attitude because I saw what you call it right after that. Um, I saw a couple more groups after that there's just kind of you know iron where I really wanted to take my craft and my George Michael had so much technology in that concert, it just blew me away. It literally
Wow.
blew me away. And then saw Genesis right not long after that, and I can tell you them those two concerts I'll never forget them as long as I live.
Nice, nice. So what's next? What's next for Bobby Bascom? I mean,
Well,
that might be a hard question to answer right now with coronavirus and no shows.
we had projects on the books, like I said, it's just a matter of when they will start, because I know Sean had a full European run to do. A full,
Right,
and we had both a track run and a band run to do in Europe. We had John and myself had some fest as well. We also had Chocobox and myself and John. We had Sunsplash coming up, which was going to be in November. And at the same time, I have Jason as well, and Jason is gearing up to go out again. Jason just dropped a new album, so
right,
he's gonna tour the album as well. So between Sean and Jason, that pretty much keep me busy, right?
right,
The year, and then you throw in a Sunfest and a Sunsplash, and then last year we had also a Buju, because we did that
right.
Long Walk to Freedom gig that literally we started working on that from the December. So
Yeah,
the year, and then you never know. There might be a surprise, and another big surprise artist come up, and we have to jump in
right,
and deal with it. Between John and myself,
right.
make it happen.
Yeah, and hopefully this show that we're supposed to be working on together with Jason Derulo here in Canada,
Correct.
hopefully that happens so we can send everybody Instagram pictures and say you should be here.
Exactly. Well, they gave us dates already. I mean, management sent a new dates to us, so obviously
Right,
they must have gotten something concrete to do that. So hopefully,
right.
that'll be good. That'll be good.
Yeah, yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be fun.
If
So
you didn't tell me, I would be surprised walking in there seeing you. I would be like,
I,
whoa.
I was going to surprise you still, but I was like, what? After it postponed from April, I was. That's why I didn't tell you about it before the April one, because it not only was do I project manage the venue, they actually had me on it as the system tech for the first few shows, because it's a new venue. So before we start bringing in other freelance staff, they wanted me to be kind of there for the first few shows. So I had planned to surprise you when you walk in, but it may not have been much of a surprise because I would have probably been on the advance anyway.
Exactly,
So you would
exactly.
have seen my name on my email on it. So, but it's okay. It's a fun time in Niagara Falls. It's a really cool venue and casino. So
It was like, when I saw you in Cayman, it was a surprise. I never expected to see you. And I saw you.
yeah,
Yeah, what's your mind, Jason?
yeah, it's a good vibe. It's always is that's to me one of the best parts of touring. People always ask me what my favorite parts are. It's when we run into friends and family on the road and we get to hang out and see each other, and yeah, that's always fun. So yeah, definitely looking forward to the next time. Thank you so much, Bobby, for joining us today. I'm sure everybody watching, this is, in my opinion, one of the best we've done. Just the conversation has been incredible. So thank you very much for taking the time, and definitely for I know those watching, if you join late, make sure you go back and watch it. Very incredible conversation. And look out for a show where you can catch Bobby Bascom doing lighting, hopefully one day soon. Hopefully we get back to doing shows very soon.
Right?
So yeah, for everybody watching, thanks again. If you haven't already done so, check out my website, jasonreynoldsproaudio.com, and patreon.com / Jason Reynolds Pro Audio. And we'll see you guys again next week. Make sure you opt in on my website so that you can receive the email to know who our guest is going to be next Wednesday. All right, take it easy. Y'all have a good day. Be safe.